everyone. So in the interest of time, I wanted to let everybody know this recording is in progress. So we are recording this presentation for posterity, and in case there are folks who are unable to join us, they can still get some of the information. But again, good morning and welcome. My name is Amy Fujitani. I use she, her pronouns. I'm from UC Irvine, where I serve as Department Manager for Film and Media Studies. I have 22 years of experience or of service, and I'm a Cal alumna, and I'm also proud to be the co-lead for the Engagement and Community Work Group with my colleague.
Me, hi, I'm Mike McCormick. I use he, him, his pronouns. I serve as the co-chair of the Engagement and Community Work Group with Amy. I have 8 years of service, and I am the UCLA delegate to CUCSA. I'm really excited for all of us to come together to talk about what it means to be a CUCSA delegate and to learn a little bit more about the responsibilities. I'd now like to introduce the CUCSA chair, Greta Howe, to share more about CUCSA.
All right, thank you, everyone. And Mike, can I ask you to monitor the waiting room while I do this? Thank
Already
you.
on it.
Okay. All right. So thank you, everyone, for joining us today. I am Greta Carla-Lay. I am the chair of CUCSA. I work at UC Santa Barbara, where I'm a business officer in the Department of Computer Science. I have 32 years of service, and I'm a UCSB alumna. Here's an overview of where CUCSA fits into the UC system. CUCSA is located in the middle bottom of this chart in blue. Our executive sponsor is System-Wide Human Resources over on the left. And we have close partnerships with the staff assemblies, which are the local chapters of CUCSA. The CUCSA Executive Board meets with the AVP of Employee and Labor Relations, Missy Matella, quarterly. We meet with President Milliken quarterly, the staff advisors to the regents monthly, and the CUCSA chair and chair-elect attend the bi-monthly regents meetings. Our delegates act as a vital link between CUCSA and the local staff assemblies. They represent the voices of staff at their locations by bringing forward feedback, concerns, and ideas to the CUCSA table. In return, they share updates from CUCSA back to their local staff assemblies and the staff, creating a two-way channel of communication. This ensures staff are kept informed and that their perspectives are heard. The Council is an assembly of volunteer staff dedicated to improving communications between the UC administrators and staff. The Council's objective has been to provide service to the university by advising and providing a staff perspective to decision makers. We act in the interest of all UC staff, particularly non-represented policy-covered staff. This graphic shows that as of October 2025, non-represented staff made up about 35% of the UC workforce, not accounting for significant union accretions that happened since then. And this includes two very large units that have recently formed, which probably account for about 13,000 staff. So we are likely closer to 30% non-represented at this time. This rapid unionization has been challenging to CUCSA and local staff assemblies, as union-represented employees cannot serve in leadership roles on staff assembly boards or as CUCSA delegates. So as a result, the volunteer pool is shrinking, and leadership positions may soon be limited to supervisors and managers. And CUCSA has spent this year addressing these concerns with the staff assemblies. Over the past 50 years, CUCSA has played a major role in many things that you probably know about, but didn't know the role that CUCSA played in making them happen. The council advocated for paid family leave, which became official policy for employees in 2021, continued salary increases for non-represented staff, and the creation of the staff advisor to the regents position. CUCSA also led the efforts that directly impact the day-to-day lives of UC staff. In partnership with the System-Wide Human Resources, CUCSA was instrumental in the creation of the System-Wide Staff Engagement Survey, which first launched in 2012. This biannual survey is important to CUCSA because it provides critical insight to the experiences, needs, and morale of UC staff, serving as a valuable tool to inform institutional priorities. And we're excited that the survey is going to be resuming in the next couple weeks. Each year, CUCSA leadership establishes work groups for the delegation to focus on specific topics based on research and recommendations. Work groups present their findings to the delegation in June. The presentations are recorded, and then we host a town hall in July for our staff assemblies, sponsors, and local leadership. The materials, including the work group reports and recordings of our presentations, are posted on our website, and here you see the topics that we have for this year. And I'm now going to turn it over to Mike.
Thank you, Greta. So let's learn a little bit more about the roles and benefits of being a CUCSA delegate. I want to spend a little time speaking about the key responsibilities that come with being a delegate. First, you're expected to attend both in-person and virtual delegation-wide meetings for across the 13 locations that form up CUCSA, as well as participate in CUCSA work groups that Greta just went over. This is where real collaborative work happens across our campuses and locations and is an opportunity to connect with others across the system. As part of that, each delegate joins a specific work group, contributing to these initiatives on topics that matter to staff assemblies across the UC. A critical piece of this role is serving as a bridge between CUCSA and our local staff assemblies, keeping communication flowing both ways so our campus voices are heard. At its core, next slide, please. CUCSA is about meaningful participation in shared governance. Having staff have a real seat at the table is how the university is run. The delegate role is an opportunity to advocate for non-represented staff, the people who often don't have a formal voice, by bringing their concerns forward both here on our campus and locations and across system-wide. Beyond that, we're building relationship with system-wide leaders and networks, helping the connections that hopefully not just benefit you, but our entire system-wide community. And importantly, you're collaborating with a diverse group of engaged, mission-driven leaders across the University of California on our delegation and at the different meetings that we connect to across the tenure of our delegation time. I wanted to quickly go over this meeting locations for 2026, 2027, and then 2027, 2028. The CUCSA delegate role for most locations is a 2-year role, sometimes with some changes for some specifics. But so just to kind of give an overview of where we're going, in 2026, 2027, we are kicking off September at Santa Barbara. In December, we'll be at UC Irvine. In March, we'll be at UC San Diego. And then in June 2027, we'll be at Office of the President at Oakland. The 2027-2028 site locations will be determined at our San Francisco meeting in June. This is a good reminder that it is an honor and a privilege to host a site meeting. It's a lot of work. So early delegate engagement is a key factor to successive meetings. With that, let's turn it over to our panel, hear directly from the delegates and answer some questions. I'd like each panelist to briefly introduce yourselves and provide a brief overview of your role within the UC Staff Assembly and as a CUCSA delegate. And how did you get involved with CUCSA and what motivates you to participate in this capacity? Try to keep it to like a minute and a half, 2 minutes. And let's start with Javier from Agriculture and Natural Resources.
Hello, everybody. My name is Javier Miramontes. I'm the FNEP supervisor. I have 14 years of service. My location is UC Agriculture Natural Resources. I'm actually located in LA and Orange County, and I graduated from UC Merced at 2010. So I actually joined Staff Assembly about 2 years ago, and I was an ambassador. My colleague Shirley, she's also a supervisor for FNIP. She kind of motivated me to join. So and at that time I also had time in my job to be able to do something kind of extra. I've been a supervisor now for 10 years, and I was really looking to do something different. And so I was an ambassador for 1 year, and then I became a CUCSA delegate. And it's been pretty exciting. Sorry, Mike, I forgot what else you asked.
And what motivates you? But that felt like a perfect answer. We'll pop corn over to Mary from UC Irvine.
Hi, good morning. I am Mary Garcia. I am from UC Irvine. I am the director for the Center of Emeriti and Retirees, and I have almost 2 years of service. And I joined I'm a CUCSA delegate, sorry, first year CUCSA delegate. And I joined for professional development, but also because I was a new employee, I really wanted to get a full picture grasp of everything you see. And I thought the best way to do that was to fully immerse myself in all of the things. And so CUCSA has really been all of the things for me. It's been really great to learn system-wide initiatives and be a part of such an amazing group. And I will popcorn over to Meenakshi.
Thank you, Mary. My name is Meenakshi Vedantam, and I'm an HR business partner within the Bears region in UC Berkeley. Um, Beyond, just being in the primary role, I also have the privilege of serving on the Berkeley Staff Assembly, calling it BSA Executive Board, as well as representing our campus as the CUCSA delegate. Now, what got me into this? As an HR professional, I want to say my North Star has been staff development and mentoring. And so I really feel like the university is only as strong as the people who support its mission. And so within 6 months of joining Berkeley, that was about 3 years ago, I began looking for ways to turn this passion into action. And I found the BSA mentoring program, and I jumped at the chance to volunteer for that. And so it was my opportunity to jump in and, take a stab at changing the campus culture. I wanted to be building this campus culture. My involvement with BSA is what opened the door to CUCSA and system-wide advocacy. When I learned about CUCSA, I was struck by the unique mission and vital mission, actually. The idea that there could be a collective voice for non-represented staff, ensuring that our perspectives reach the highest levels of leadership, was very novel and compelling to me. And therefore, after researching CUCSA and finding the list of achievements that CUCSA did, I knew I wanted to bring this energy to this legacy. And I'm incredibly honored to be elected as a delegate. And I use this as an opportunity to bridge between local staff assembly and the university system. Thank you.
Thank you, Meenakshi. Jasmine?
Hi, everyone. I'm Jasmine Pangilinan, and I have 21 years of service. I'm a data scientist at Berkeley Lab and a proud UC Davis alumna. So at the lab, I'm involved in staff initiatives through our employee resource groups, our stewardship community of practice, and my department's growth and engagement team. So my path to CUCSA was a natural extension of how I've shown up at the lab. I've been involved in service work for years, but my perspective shifted when my department navigated a culture change when we moved to the main site after 20 years of being offsite right as the pandemic hit. And so having both of that happen together really fractured my group's sense of community. And so, like many, I was navigating survival mode. It was like a really hard time, but I was really deeply grateful to have a supervisor that supported me where I eventually was able to thrive in my work again. And so while my department was adjusting, I took this initiative to find a larger sense of community across the broader organization. And so that experience deepened my commitment to advocacy and my connection to the lab as a whole outside of my technical role. And I realized I wanted to keep making that kind of impact. And that's when the call for CUCSA delegates ended up in my inbox. So I was already finding so much value engaging locally, but taking it to the system-wide level felt like a natural next step. And so it's easy to feel motivated because the work is just really meaningful. Like CUCSA is a space where you can pay it forward in ways that impact everyone's quality of work and life. And the role isn't just learning system-wide policy, but it's applying leadership in real time. And so the combination of building a UC-wide community and accelerating your professional development makes this opportunity so significant.
Well said, Jasmine. Thank you. Paige?
Boy, tough acts to follow. I am Paige Mejia. I'm an interim financial and administrative officer within a cluster unit at our college. I have 12 years of service at UC Riverside, and I am a UC Riverside alum. And for me, I am the president for our staff assembly. And so with our president role, we are CUCSA delegates. So we do both. So within my UCR staff assembly presidential role, we do the advocacy work for our local campus. And then as a delegate, we come to the CUCSA delegation so we can express our collaborations and work together for the greater good of all the UC. But what did motivate me to even run to be in the vice president role for staff assembly was I am also on the executive board for our Black Faculty and Staff Association, and there was an incident that happened a few years ago um, where we didn't have a voice. They were like, "Oh, go talk to staff assembly," and I'm like, "Are you freaking kidding me?" Sorry. So I was like, you know what? This is a great way to connect staff assembly and the other affinity groups together. So that's one of the things I focus on as the president and as the president role of staff assembly is not only advocating for our policy cover staff and keeping our staff engaged as a whole, but as well as working on trying to get a seat at the table for our affinity groups because there's so many things that are happening at the affinity groups at their level that campus would not know without that connection of staff assembly to give them that face time with CHROs and the chief diversity officer. So that is that was my motivation to be on the staff assembly at this capacity. The CUCSA delegation came hand in hand with my role. But my motivation for staying in the CUCSA capacity is being able to share knowledge across campuses because if we didn't have this delegation, we wouldn't be able to have that opportunity to exchange knowledge. So
Thank you, Paige. And last but certainly not least, from our panelists, Nathan McCall. Tell us a little about yourself, Nathan.
Only a little. I promise it'll just be a little. All right, Nathan McCall, 14 years of service here at UC Santa Cruz. I've served on our local UCSC Staff Advisory Board for 8 years. I'm a former chair there, and I'm currently serving as the chair-elect. I had the privilege of serving as a CUCSA delegate for 3 years and also being a work group chair in that space as well. So how did I get involved with our local staff assembly? I was invited in, and at first I refused because I would rather get stuff done, not talk about having meetings that talk about maybe getting things done. And it just didn't appeal to me to sit in a bunch of meetings. But because I trusted the people who invited me, and that relational component is really important, because I trusted them and they said, give it a try, then I did. And I'm so glad that I did. Not only does my local staff advisory board and CUCSA service make me a more well-rounded employee that helps me be more effective locally, but I was also able to bring local subject matter expertise and experience to benefit the system-wide conversation as well. So for us, how did I get involved in CUCSA? Part of our chair track for local, we call it a staff advisory board. Most other folks call it a staff assembly. Part of our chair track is to do CUCSA service. And so we do kind of double duty in that way. But what motivates me overall, and I'll make this super brief, is I love to help people. That's how I stay sane in my job. I would rather be walking around in the forest, talking with people, discussing the deepest matters of life, but I sit at a desk and do IT work for an institution of higher education. And the way that I'm able to reconcile that is I'm helping people. And the local staff advisory board and CUCSA, that's where the helpers congregate. So I love helping and I love being with helpers, and that's what happens at CUCSA. So that's what keeps me going.
Thank you, Nathan. And Brian, not to put you on the spot, but could you briefly introduce yourself, chair-elect?
Sure, I could do that. Hi, everybody. My name is Brian Light. I am the chair-elect of CUCSA. I have 27 years of service in the libraries at UC Berkeley. And I think that's all you really need from me right now, because we've got some awesome people who are going to keep talking. So, but hi, everyone.
And let's roll into some of those awesome people. Our first question is for Meenakshi. Could you describe your typical responsibilities and duties as a CUCSA delegate, and touch on being your participation in your work group?
Happy to do that, Mike. Thank you for that question. So just to give you an idea, I think the background about how CUCSA is structured would be helpful. We have three strategic pillars or three work groups that we operate through, and that is engagement, sustainability, and then well-being. These are the three themes. I'm currently serving on the staff well-being work group, where our mission is to turn research into actionable policy recommendations. And just as a FYI, there have been other work groups that have worked on these, and so we definitely take into account the past work that has been done. As a work group member, my primary responsibility is to bridge the gap between the staff experience and the policies that exist. So we have formal quarterly meetings like Greta was telling us about. The day-to-day work involves researching into our specific theme, which is staff well-being. And so I collaborate actually virtually with a very passionate team of delegates from across UC systems. So we're a bunch of folks who audit the current practices, we challenge status quo, we identify what are the pain points for the staff, and then beyond just identifying the problems, we are spending this whole year trying to develop high quality, actionable recommendations. And so this finally culminates in a formal presentation in the UC to the UC administration. So that's what gets us to advocate policy changes that we have spent a year working on. So I'm incredibly thrilled to be part of the well-being work group this year and can't wait to present our findings in our June meeting. Thank you.
A good spoiler for our June meeting. So what to hone in a little bit more on meetings, our next question is for Javier. What is a quarterly meeting like? What are the intersessions like? What's a work group meeting like? Kind of run us through the opportunities that we have to meet and work on projects together. And A&R recently hosted one of the site meetings, so if you could potentially touch on that in your response as well.
Sounds good. So my first interaction with CUCSA was I actually subbed in for somebody and I attended a CUCSA meeting in June, which was the last meeting. And for me, it was very exhilarating. It was absolutely amazing. Going in there, I didn't really understand the structure, but once you start going to the meetings, there's actually a structure for day one, day two, day three. Day one, usually it's just the CUCSA delegates we're meeting. The second day, we're hearing from presenters, and the third day, we usually give updates on their work groups. I think it's the meetings are very meaningful. They're very thoughtful the way they're planned out. Uh, one of my favorite things is that we're able to meet with very important stakeholders. For example, my first meeting that I went to, it was the chancellor for Berkeley, and it was President Drake, and it was like I was like, oh wow, this is pretty amazing. And people, for us as CUCSA delegates, were able to ask these very important stakeholders questions that pertain to staff that I think staff would really care about. That's kind of the structures of the meetings. And for intermission meetings, the last one that we had was actually in um, in February, and we heard from the Executive Director of Retirement Program Services, and we also heard from the Chief Data and Operating Officer. They're usually 2 hours, and we get updates on kind of like things that kind of like matter to the staff. And then the other question was work group meetings. So I'm part of the Sustainable Workforce. Right now, we're meeting on a weekly basis. We used to meet bi-weekly, and basically during the meetings, we're proactively working towards our mission of just basically completing our task. So we give each other updates on what we're doing. We kind of brainstorm off of each other and try to help each other out as well. But that's pretty much it. I wanted to add for the quarterly meetings, the ones that we actually get to meet in person. I feel like that's kind of my favorite thing from CUCSA. We have such an amazing team who organize these meetings, and you're able to really glean from their skills of how they organize these meetings, just all the work that they put into it. I wouldn't say they're just meetings. I think I've been to meetings where they're just meetings. These are really great. We're really working on behalf of non-represented employees. And we did host recently UCNR in Salinas. I wasn't able to go, but I know one of the unique things that they were able to do was to hear from former advisors who work with local farmers on, helping them, grow their crops. And they were able to also hear from different community members like 4-H, Master Food Preservators, and how they're helping out their local community.
Thank you. Those are such unique opportunities to see the things that make each of our locations special. Our next question is for Paige. How do you represent the interests and concerns of your local staff assembly within the broader CUCSA framework?
Okay. Um, so for us, every quarter, myself, the vice president, and our immediate past president, we meet quarterly with our chancellor, the provost, the associate chancellor, and the CHRO, and our own separate meeting, as well as we meet with our CHRO, who is our sponsor for staff assembly, quarterly as well. And we have other meetings with our chief diversity officer and the interim CFO. In our talks with them, we give them updates on our initiatives and what we learned from CUCSA as well. And we bring them concerns that we've heard from the staff and solicit feedback on how we can work together to combat these issues. One of the examples that I comes to mind is when we met with our chancellor earlier, and you know how like the benefits were going up across UC when it comes to the medical insurance. Um, we brought those concerns to the chancellor because A, there was no equity call this year, and then B, um, those insurance premiums were going up a significant amount. And so from that advocacy work, out of his own chancellor discretionary fund, he's actually supplementing the increases for those in the level 1 and 2 salary pay bands, just so we can be able to transition this year and plan for the increase next year. So that was one of the things that come out of our talks with the chancellor. And then additional, when it comes to our staff pantry, we have a monthly staff pantry that we serve where those who are on the lower pay scales are able to, but it's open to all staff, but it's majority of those who are on the lower pay scales, like facilities or dining services, they come to our staff pantry. And a part of those costs was that we have to pay the facility fees and all those things. And those are not cheap. And it's surprisingly because, we're a group that is supporting staff. It should be like free like the students, but that's a different conversation for another day. But out of our talks with our CHRO and even with the provost, we were telling them how we aren't able to provide more food for the staff because we have all these other extra charges. And so with that, they were actually able to talk with facilities too to waive the charges. So now with that extra money that we would have charged, been paying for fees or anything like that, we get to put that back in to the staff that are in need to come to staff pantry. So we have multiple talks. We hear from our staff and their concerns. We have an avenue where they can email us and to give us feedback or anything like that. And they really do. I know that a lot of people were always like, make sure you email us, and some people don't, but people actually do. They email us about concerns about their supervisors or anything like that because they know that we have an ear to the CHRO. And even from these talks, like the CRHO, he is working on a better developmental plan for supervisors and managers on the staff side and for the academic, for those who supervise staff. So a lot of our advocacy work comes from the concerns of the staff, and I'm really fortunate that we get to have this working relationship with the chancellor's cabinet and the other leadership on campus.
Thank you, Paige. Mary, what are some of the key challenges you faced in your role and how have you overcome them?
I think that with everybody, it's just a balance game, you know? I mean, we all have full-time jobs where heavy responsibilities, especially as directors, associate directors, or what, I mean, whatever your level of supervisory is, there are, you know, obviously responsibilities that come with that. And so balancing the responsibilities of CUCSA takes a little bit of an initial kind of breakthrough because you really get into it once you start attending meetings and start working with your work groups. And as Jasmine wrote in the chat, I mean, you really become family with the other delegates. And so your work groups are, they are work groups, they are professional colleagues, but they really have your best interests at heart and they are really willing to step in and to work collaboratively, and everyone's strengths really do shine in the various groups. And so I feel like the challenges, you know, are more of just organizational, but easily able to overcome once you get into the groove of, you know, what's expected and so forth. And so, and also I have to give a shout out to Zoe because she makes everything so user friendly and gives us all the resources that we need to be successful in our various roles. And that in itself is a huge help because otherwise we would be scrambling to find things and to look for things. But she has everything so well organized that it's easier to jump in and to see what exactly is expected, what's needed, and you have the tools to do so and to be successful in those various roles. So I would say that.
Thank you, Mary. Amy?
Thanks, everyone. We're going to pivot the next set of questions to focus on collaboration and networking. And with that in mind, this next question is for Paige. Have you encountered any notable instances of knowledge sharing or best practice exchange among delegates?
No, thank you. Yeah, and I feel like there's too many to count. Um, I think when it comes to besides making the connections with our delegates and the knowledge sharing on our quarterly meetings, that is actually what I value the most at our meetings. Not saying that the speakers aren't great or anything like that, but as a CUCSA delegate and being able to come together with the other delegates, that's why I look forward to the most is being able to um, hear what the other campuses are doing and seeing how I can apply it to mine, and vice versa. When we talk about what UCR is doing, and then our connections and how to get staff engaged. I find it very valuable for us to be able to have those kind of talks. But it's also another way that we are able to see how we can adopt and then change things as a whole as a group when it comes to the staff experience on campus. So yeah.
Great. Thank you. Our next question is for Nathan. Nathan, in what ways has your involvement with CUCSA strengthened your professional network or expanded your perspectives?
Yeah, it's super good for that. So imagine any game, a board game or any sport, just knowing the rules of the game allows for greater peace and efficacy within the game. Learning more games allows you to start seeing the patterns in the rules that are across games, right? Like how not to step out of bounds. P.S. There are probably lines that show out of bounds. Don't step over those, like that kind of thing. Connecting with our local board members and CUCSA members allows me to learn all about their games that they're dealing with, which allows me to notice patterns that are true for them. So that kind of awareness is super helpful for me because that allows me to walk into completely unfamiliar opportunities for collaboration. But I likely know what the rules are going to be, which allows me peace on approach and not be nervous so that I can actually be creatively minded instead of protection minded. But then it also allows me to be more, to have greater efficacy from the first moment. Also, you're able to source ideas from others across campuses that aren't hypnotized by your own constraints. Like I see the world how I see the world because that is my world. But then I say, how did you solve this problem? And they're like, oh, you just do this. Like, oh, I didn't even think about that. I have made a lot of good use of the CUCSA Slack channels over the years, just reaching out to individual colleagues. It's also nice to know. It just feels better knowing you're not alone. Like when you reach out to other people and say, like, I'm dealing with this. And they're like, yeah, me too. It's like, oh, that's nice. It just feels good to know that you're not by yourself. It also opens relational doors to resources that would otherwise be guarded. Like simple, super easy example, we have a staff appreciation picnic that we do, and we needed a space to just store a bunch of stuff. And we asked around, and the answer was no. And then I asked somebody who used to be on the board, I'm like, hey, do you happen to have a thing? It's like, oh yeah, I've got a whole garage that we don't let anyone use. You can use it. So simple things like that, but also very meaningful things. Like we're starting up a food distribution site, like what Riverside was just talking about. We're starting that up at our campus, and getting a location took about a day because we just happened to know someone who happens to know someone who said, "Oh yeah, you can totally have our space." Crazy. That just doesn't happen. Who gives away space for free? Um, but that's through the relational connectivity. Also, I'll say one piece about think about like the concept, the physics of a gravity well. The more you're seen as a person who knows other people and can connect people to resources, then the more folks come to you in order to help them solve their problems, which means you're going to learn their problems and help them, and then your connection grows and your resources grow, and you just become more and more drawing in of people and resources, which allows you to become more and more effective at helping people. And I guess I could just stop there um, because it's just so good. It's good, good, good. I'm done.
Thank you, Nathan.
Oh, good, Mike.
Our next question is for Mary. What opportunity or experience did you gain by being a CUCSA delegate?
I mean, they have been plentiful in the short time that I've been a part of CUCSA. Like I said, this is my first year, and I am a mom of two, and I don't have a lot of free time. And so I rarely get to, go places alone, let alone go somewhere for 2 nights and be in an adult atmosphere with professional colleagues, learning about stimulating topics and interesting things that are meaningful. The time is wonderful to be able to converse with people who are like-minded. I feel like I have, made some really lifelong friends in this process, including my delegate, who I would have never even from Irvine, who I would have never even met, had I not jumped into this role. Amy, by the way, shout out. And I also think, our last experience when we were in Merced, it was so special for me. We got to meet one of the UC regents, Jose Hernandez, and he has been such an inspiration to me for so long, just knowing his story before I worked at UC. And if you don't know his story, you should look it up. He has a book, he has a movie, lots of things. But just hearing, those types of people who are in these positions of authority and trying to make a difference for the UC system and being able to ask them questions, hear their take on important issues. I mean, it has been something that I would have never otherwise had the opportunity to experience. And I feel, very, very grateful for these opportunities. I mean, I always get emotional in our meetings because I just feel so connected. But I mean, there are things that I feel like growing up, you don't necessarily think that you're going to be, or I didn't anyways, feel like, I was going to be able to be in a position where I would be able to have influence in this kind of capacity. And so I feel like CUCSA has allowed me to, have a seat at the table that I wouldn't have otherwise had. So I'm very appreciative for that.
Thank you, Mary. Jasmine, what has been some of the most significant challenges you face as a CUCSA delegate, and how have you addressed them?
Thanks, Mike. I'd say the most significant challenge I face as a CUCSA delegate is navigating the nuances of Berkeley Lab's organizational structure and its identity as a DOE national lab within the UC community space. So, on the structural side, we don't have a traditional staff assembly. And this means being a CUCSA delegate representing the lab requires being very resourceful to find the pulse of our staff across multiple channels. So we have to read between the lines of the work of our ERGs, volunteer pipelines, and work closely with our stewardship office to ensure the lab's voice is represented authentically at the system-wide level. So when CUCSA asks to engage with a location staff assembly, we also have to identify and assemble the right set of voices to represent us. The second piece is our unique dual identity in the UC space. So the lab's ties to the UC dates back to its origin with UC Berkeley, but our daily mission is driven by federal and DOE priorities. So this means we're often navigating federal policies that impact us differently than the rest of the UC system. And there's this delicate balance where we aren't always able to engage with state level priorities in the same way a traditional campus might. So this also creates a disconnect for my lab colleagues because they don't immediately see how they fit into the UC-wide fabric. So I see my role as a bridge to help my peers see how the CUCSA mission supports them, but while also helping the UC system understand the unique mission of a national lab. So ultimately, this is what makes the role rewarding too, because you're building that connection to all of the University of California.
That's great. Thank you, Jasmine. So our last set of questions is focused on personal growth and development. And our first one is for Javier. How has serving as a CUCSA delegate impacted your personal and professional growth?
So I'll speak on the personal first. So I did mention that I've been a supervisor now for 10 years, even though I've managed different groups in different locations. So my job was becoming a little bit redundant for me. And so joining a staff assembly in CUCSA, I felt was something really different for me. I was able to meet new people and expand on my skill sets as well. I work in kind of like public health field right now, but I was a political science major. So I've always really enjoyed politics. So I feel like it's, giving me that part again. Um, and also, I feel like personally as well, or I should say professionally, sometimes we work like in silos, and I feel like with Cooks, it's given me kind of like a big picture. So when we attend the quarterly meetings, we get to hear so much about what the University of California is doing for the state of California, and it's absolutely amazing. But as a CUCSA delegate, when we're hearing from these various stakeholders, I always think about like what's a question that staff might want to hear, or how do we tell these important people who make decisions that what staff care about? So I feel like it's helped me with having a voice. And besides being a CUCSA delegate, I know for our location, we also get to meet with our VP for UC&R, which is equivalent of a chancellor at a campus. So, we're able to have quarterly meetings with her and voice concerns that staff might have. Um, so I would just say just kind of expanding my skill set. Being in the work group that I am in right now, I'm researching different things from different campuses, what they offer for staff when staff are feeling overworked because we're trying to create a tool, and so I'm researching that part. I wouldn't be doing this in my day-to-day job. So if you're looking, to expand your skill set in that way, it's been pretty meaningful.
Great. Thank you, Javier. So for our last question, we wanted to get the perspective of an alum, as well as a current CUCSA delegate. And that question is, what advice would you offer to other UC staff members who are considering becoming involved with their local staff assemblies or pursuing leadership roles within CUCSA? So first will be Nathan and then Meenakshi.
Yeah, my advice is super short. Do it. You're not going to be perfect. Do it anyway. You will have people to support you. And if you don't have support locally, then reach out to others across the system. My CUCSA mentee is Kelly Breland, who is on the call right now. And she leads the staff assembly there. And we often discuss items in a way that supports her leadership there. So just do it. Do it, do it, do it. The end.
Do you want me to jump in, Amy?
Go ahead.
Okay. Well, I think Nathan stole my thunder. I had the same Nike slogan, just do it. And it's true because it's really what you got to do. If you have the heart and the passion for advocacy, and I think we should just jump in with both feet in. And every drop in the ocean really counts. And let's face it, UC is a very big ocean, and we could use a few more waves here. So just go in there and even a small contribution makes a big difference. This is what I learned at CUCSA. It was really eye-opening at the time interacting with all the delegates from various campuses. And also realizing that we all share the same problems, which in some ways is weirdly comforting, but also it's an opportunity for us to learn from each other. And so some of the things that I was able to do was to bring back some of the ideas that have been implemented in other campuses and tried and tested. So it's an amazing opportunity to be able to share that kind of learning across with other folks. And then remember, at the end of the day, I always remind myself that the singular powerful goal that we all have is to improve the UC experience for every staff member. And once we keep that in mind, this provides a premier platform for us to, whether it's your staff assembly or CUCSA, you can just ensure that your voice is heard or be the voice for those folks who may shy away from the spotlight and use that opportunity to help them out as well. So go for it and don't let this opportunity pass by is my last words. Thank you.
Those are all the questions we've prepared. So let's take a quick moment to thank the panelists for all of your insight, your wisdom, for stepping up when Amy and I dragooned you into doing this. We really appreciate it. We had a couple of questions submitted as part of registration, but we'll also have time for open questions from the audience. So if panelists have insight that they want to share, if you just want to raise your hand and Amy and I will call on you. The first question was, how do you relay CUCSA related information or discussions back to your campus leadership? Jasmine and Nathan.
Well, for us, it's really simple. So my co-delegate is on the call too. That's Lale Cote. And when we come back, we usually just set up an email with our CHRO and the head of our stewardship office. And we just try to sync in with them at least quarterly. We give them a debrief of what the meeting was like, and we kind of meet beforehand to try to figure out like what topics can we apply to Berkeley Lab, what knowledge sharing can we pass along. And it's pretty casual, but it's a really good opportunity where you're feeling like more connected with higher leadership at your location.
Nathan and Meenakshi, and then we'll go for our next question.
Yeah, structure is really important for that so that things don't get lost unintentionally. And so our chair track is actually 4 years where you're the chair-elect, the chair, and then you're the past chair, and then the past chair, because we don't know of a better name for it. And it's during those 2 years that you're the CUCSA delegate. And so these 4 people stay in tight conversation all the time. And so it's very easy for us to relay information. And then our chair and chair-elect meet with our associate chancellor, which is our direct line to the chancellor biweekly, in order to just connect, this is what's happening, this is what's going on. So that's how we do it.
Meenakshi?
Unlike other campuses, our CUCSA delegate is not necessarily the chair of our staff assembly. So it's a little bit different there. But then the beauty of this, the way it's set up, again, it's all structured like Nathan said. We serve on the Berkeley Staff Assembly Board. So we have meetings, as a board and also as the governing council. And at these meetings, we definitely bring back everything that we learned at the CUCSA meetings. And then the board, as well as the chairs, they have the opportunity to meet with senior leadership where all of this information is conveyed to them. So that's the exchange of information that happens at Berkeley campus.
Thank you. We had a question from a participant in the chat. Do you feel like your CUCSA position has given you opportunity to see CUCSA being included at the table in decisions and discussions facing higher education with a staff perspective? Greta.
Yeah, I would like to mention that the executive board recently met with Rachel Nava, the COO, and Nathan Brostrom, the CFO of the university. And they asked us this exact question. Could we please collect stories from staff, particularly staff who feel impacted by cuts to research funding? But really, what they are asking us is to collect stories so that they can hear the voices of the impacts that staff are feeling, because they said specifically they hear from faculty all the time and they don't get to hear from staff all the time. So the fact that we get to be in these meetings with senior leadership at the office of the president gives us the opportunity to elevate the staff voice constantly. And that is exactly what Brian and I do at Regents meetings, is make sure that we're constantly adding the staff voice.
Jasmine.
Yes, I think Greta is the most knowledgeable to answer this question, but I would say, like, being part of this delegation, you get a lot more exposure of when there are asks from senior leadership at the Office of the President of collecting information. You have more opportunities to join focus groups and things that they need from the staff perspective, related to certain initiatives that they want to know and kind of get that pulse. And so I think, like, CUCSA has kind of been growing to be this, like, one-stop shop for leadership to know, like, I need a staff voice perspective in this. Let's talk to CUCSA and see, like, where we can, make traction on that.
Thank you. Javier.
Hello. So I've been in CUCSA now for 1 year, and kind of I know each campus structures things a little bit differently, and I did mention I'm part of A&R, not a kind of typical campus. But we, when what's kind of already set for us as a CUCSA delegate is that we have meetings with our main HR person, and I mentioned before as well our VP, who is the equivalent of a chancellor. So we meet with her on a quarterly basis. These meetings would have never presented themselves if I was not part of a CUCSA delegate. And also I feel like, so, we're able to raise staff concerns during that time. And I also wanted to mention that as a CUCSA delegate, if you don't see those opportunities, you can make those opportunities. You can be creative with that as well. So just as my 1 year, just being a delegate, I'm being able to have conversations, even with our main budget BLC person, um, that I normally would have never had the opportunity to ever be in even the same room with them, one-on-one time, or I should say, kind of like a group time. So yeah, just wanted to mention that.
I can add a little to that as well. I've had the opportunity to step in for a delegate last year when President Milliken's announcement was made, and we were able to have a few minutes with him prior to the announcement, which I think shows the space that CUCSA has at the university. Are we always looking to be the experts and it being a constant practice? Yeah. But I think that was one of those moments that um, I recognized the privilege that this like title gave me, was to know who the president of the university was before the general population, and that's not nothing. And I think it's an opportunity when we go to Regents meetings, or when, because a lot of them are hosted at UCLA or San Francisco. There are opportunities even there, whether it's public comment campaigns that CUCSA runs or staff assemblies run on their own accord, or as an individual. Um, I've stepping in to go to the May Regents meeting, to go behind the curtain, to talk to the Wizard of Oz, and I think that those are spaces that I don't take for granted, that it's because of the title, that my position as a delegate, that I'm able to step into those positions. Brian.
I was going to add a wild opportunity that only comes to CUCSA delegates is I got the opportunity to talk to the committee that was hiring a UC president, and that was when Drake got elected or chosen. But there are CUCSA delegates who actually present these are the issues that staff want in their next UC president. So there's a lot of things on locally, but also system wide, and you just wouldn't even hear about them if you weren't involved with this organization. So it's kind of cool.
Jasmine put something really, I think, helpful in the chat that as a first year delegate, the CUCSA is what you make it to be. You build new skills, your network, and a voice, but in a collaborative partnership with leaders. I think that's a really astute point to underscore before we wrap up. With that, I'm going to pass it to Amy.
All right, like last call for questions. We have like 2 minutes. Well, hopefully everybody had most of their questions and concerns addressed, and you learned quite a bit about not only the organization, but the impact it has on the staff community here at the UC. We all, thank you so much for joining us. We will share out the slides with the email that you registered with. If you want to learn even more about CUCSA, please visit our link tree. It gives you sort of a one-stop shop for current initiatives, all of our social media channels and beyond. You'll perhaps be more well-informed than me if you review everything on that website. In the interim period, please please reach out to your local staff assembly board to learn about how a CUCSA delegate is selected at your UC location. Thanks so much for participating, and we look forward to seeing you at staff assembly meetings and CUCSA town halls. Take care, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.